Normally, we don't talk about games that are announced, Zero, because we can't really glean anything business-wise off of them, except that, hey, this is announced, this is what people think, and that's not really an interesting story most times. We're making an exception this one time, and the reason why is because of how unique the studio is. What we're talking about is oh god, I forgot their name.
Digital Extremes.
Good god. Maybe you should host this because you remember this faster than I do.
Yeah. So
okay, go ahead, go host it. I'll just say.
So this weekend was a Digital Extremes Warframe focused convention, TennoCon. So most people who are familiar with Warframe or are ingrained in just Warframe in general, they know this to be sort of the mega event for Warframe, where the future of the game is basically talked about, things like expansions and cool stuff that's going to be added into the game. It's all pretty much going to be out right in front and just in full display. This year was a little different because they revealed a trailer, but the trailer wasn't in a sci-fi realm. It was in a high fantasy style realm. And of course everyone was just kind of confused by this. And then you get to the end, and of course some people who are watching this on Twitch had said that pretty much Twitch chat just kind of went kind of the joke route and going watch, it's gonna be a Dark Souls inspired Warframe game. It's gonna be called Soulframe, and then of course the title card comes up in it, and the title is literally Soulframe. So just everyone sort of went ballistic over this because just brand new game being announced by Digital Extremes, and no one really expected just a new game to come out of TennoCon, because again, normally this is just Warframe focused information. Just they really don't talk about much else.
Yeah. So
it was really interesting because during this announcement there was also a huge personnel shakeup. Steve Sinclair and some folks that work with Steve are apparently stepping down from their positions with the Warframe team to move on to the Soulframe project. But in the absence of Steve Sinclair being the creative director for Warframe, there was a huge promotion for someone who's been very amazing for the Warframe community, and that's community manager Rebecca Ford. She is now stepping into the creative director role for Warframe. Mm-hmm. So just humongous promotion for her. And for anyone who doesn't know her backstory, she started her career with Digital Extremes as an intern in college, and then became the community manager. And then for her to go from community manager to creative director, yeah, this is a humongous step for her. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, just for me, really the more curious and interesting part was just this whole personnel shakeup that happened, right, and everything.
Okay, so they announced the new game. They said they're continuing development on Warframe, but let's be honest here. Warframe is probably going to wind down at a certain point. When they announced Soulframe, the first thing I thought about was, wait a minute, how much money does this game make? And it's impressive. They made I'm looking at their stats right now. In 2018, they made $180.5 million in revenue and $175 million in 2019. And for a free-to-play game that honestly hasn't been graphically updated that much since 2016, that's still pretty good. And Warframe is a good-looking game, I will say. But in 2020, the revenue went down 20%. And it's been steadily declining since. So this probably was around, like, I would say in 2019, they were expecting the revenue to go down, and which is why they started development on Soulframe. When I looked at the trailer, immediately I was like, oh, they're still, it seems like they're still doing Warframe things in this engine. So I'm curious to what different they will do in it. But I don't know if this will, like, the people who like Warframe like I would say they like the customization and the different weapons and the looks of the Tennos. They're Tennos, right? That's what they're. Oh no, they're Warframes. Good God, the Tennos are the people inside the Warframes. Anyway, but yeah, like the people who enjoy Warframe really got into it and dug the customization, the different weapons, and how different they are. I don't know exactly how you can do that in a high fantasy setting. So my question is, what is this game? How will it play? And what's, of course, going to be their monetization, and how are they going to do that? Because for those who don't know, with Warframe, you have the option of grinding to get parts to build specific weapons, or in the cases of primes, prime weapons and prime Warframes, getting these specific items that then you can gamble to get those specific parts to make those weapons and Warframes, or you can use platinum, which is their currency, to purchase those items right off the marketplace. So that's how they do their monetization.
Yep, and what makes the platinum monetization interesting is, for those who apparently have no interest in purchasing platinum, they do allow players to make trades with other players to earn platinum. So let's say you decide to go completely free to play, and you're just farming up parts for whatever the new prime is at the moment that you're playing, and you just end up listing a bunch of primes for sale, and people start paying you platinum out the nose, then yeah, technically that platinum is as good to spend as if you bought it with cash and everything.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of people who do that in that game, who essentially farm the hell out of, or they're called relics. They farm the hell out of relics to get parts, to then sell them on the marketplace to get platinum, and then I guess they use that platinum to purchase those parts or Warframes or whatever. Or they get cosmetics or whatever. I mean, what we're not talking about is the gameplay, which actually is really solid and feels good when you play it. So there's that. The one issue that Warframe has still, and has always had, because the way they developed it in the beginning was so slapshot that they just did not do a good job with this. It is pretty hard to get into if you're a new player, and it's hard to get into if you're a returning player. I know, Zero, you played for a couple of years, right?
Yeah. I want to say from 2016 until about 2018-ish.
Mm-hmm. I played it on PlayStation 4 a year after it came out to about 2019. And the reason why I remember this, because the first anniversary was, they gave you the Dex Cerebus item, and the Dex Cerebus was a great gun, and I loved using it, and I leveled it up. Like, that's another thing with Warframe. You level up everything in the game. So you can level up your guns, your melee, your handguns, and then you use mods to modify the guns and the weapons to do different things. But what you can then do is you can what's called forma the guns, or forma the weapons, to where you can give them a specific, I guess, where I forget what they're called, but
polarities.
They're signs. So each mod has a sign. So if you would put the polarity, if you forma it to a certain polarity, and you put that on a certain mod, it cuts the mod cost in half, which makes you able to get more mods, which makes the gun more powerful and makes them do more interesting things. So, like, it really hits that ARPG thing where you're leveling up to get more powers, to make more interesting builds. And it hit that note really well, Warframe, to where I would, honestly, at some points, I would do the same missions over and over again just so I can get different mods for my guns so they can do different things and cooler things. Like, it was really addictive and a lot of fun to play. So, yeah, Warframe is what Destiny should have been to me, is how I look at it. Because I look at Warframe and say Warframe's a better game than Destiny, is my opinion. But yeah,
I will say it's kind of funny with regards to just the earnings numbers sort of falling. Starting in and around 2020, and it's been documented by a few of the unofficial Warframe content creators like Retelius and Sabuchi and everything. But what seems to be the cycle, and this has been the case ever since 2018, is that Warframe will always peak the day that the expansion, the new expansion comes out for whatever the current story chapter of the game is. Players will just rip through it, get it done, and then after that, boom, they drop off and go, okay, I'm done. I don't really see much reason to continue playing this, nor do I see much reason to spend platinum and spend money to get platinum and buy more stuff. So I'm done. I will see you guys next time when you've got the next Prime out. Maybe grind for a little bit. And even some people don't even come back to grind primes, or let alone even buy additional primes. So just there's always a player spike right when the new expansion or story chapter drops, and then just after that, it sort of just tapers off. And it just seems to be the problem that they've had since 2018. And if my memory serves me correctly, 2018 wasn't a great year for Warframe because the game was in a really strange place. Just things weren't balanced right. The grind for some of the current stuff during 2018 was just way, way, way too high for most people. So a lot of people had just quit out of frustration, me included, where I was just like, wow, that's a really cool, interesting thing, but good lord, I don't have the time and patience to grind for that, and I'm just in a tough financial situation, so I just don't have the money to buy almost $60-$70 in platinum just to go ahead and skip this part of the grind.
And the packs that they would use to incentivize you to buy, I would say the primes, were really expensive. Like they would have the accessories that would cost something different, and then I think they would have the actual prime items be like more expensive. I think they're like $100. And they would come up with new primes stuff like every 3 months. Am I right on that? 3 months?
No, every 6.
Every 6. Okay. So yeah. Well, like I mentioned, like this is a really solid game, but you need somebody to shepherd you into the game to basically say this is what you need to do. This is the first thing you should be doing when you play the game, because the game just doesn't do it. Like they don't give you a quest line, I would say, to say, okay, you need to get to here, so you can do this thing first. So do these missions first, then do this, and then you can start doing this. Like Warframe doesn't do that really in the game, which some might say, hey, that's not bad. It means you can just do things on your own. Yeah, but then you find yourself grinding for no reason whatsoever, and it's not fun.
And what really makes it sad is the fact that I believe it was TennoCon 2018. Rebecca Ford had made the announcement that they would be making a project called the new player experience, which would completely revise the intro to the game and make things a little bit more clear on which missions to do, how to progress forward in the game and everything. But much like a lot of the other projects that they've revealed for the TennoCon presentations, and full disclaimer, I still have a very, very, very big soft spot for Warframe. I love the folks over at Digital Extremes because they just seem like a fun group of people. But if there's one thing that breaks my heart so much, it's that they always, without fail, introduce something that looks so neat during TennoCon, and then when it actually launches, it's just a giant clusterfuck.
Yeah.
It's just either completely unbalanced, systems are out of tune and out of whack, just a whole bunch of miscellaneous problems will just kind of pop up with whatever they do, and then of course the players will gripe and complain and say, hey, this thing is really underwhelming, really broken, just we've got issues with it, and then it's, oh my god, we're so sorry, we'll work on it, we'll return and try to clean this up, and then they sort of halfway bandage it, and then it's on to the next project, on to the next project, on to the next project. And unfortunately, this whole cycle, I think, was another reason that burned a lot of players out right around 2018, and just, you had players sort of dropping off. And it's a real damn shame because I love Warframe. I love introducing people to it when they say that they're interested, but dear God, just the fact that they sort of, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, they sort of gave up on this new player experience project. Just, you have to have a Sherpa or a shepherd sort of guide you through the early game, and it's really, really sad because just the little bit that they showed off of the new player experience, it was so cool. I was just like, oh my god, cool. So there's a brand new story on how you become the pilot of a Warframe, and there's a whole new intro cinematic now. This is so freaking cool. I hope they do more with this, and it was really neat because just with this new introduction mission that you get tossed into and everything, when you get to the point where you pick your Warframes, they've got like this awesome looking screen. All three Warframes are on the screen, and when you mouse over them, it shows you like a sample of all their skills and what this particular Warframe excels at. Just, it looks so freaking slick, and just made so much more sense for anyone who was a new player trying to get into it. And I think they got that part of the intro done, but they never really fleshed out the rest of the new player experience project, and it just breaks my heart because I'm just like, this would have been a grand opportunity to just revise the early game, make sure that new players get what the hell they're doing, and then from there just build this out and get it to a point that after the players get through the bulk of the new player experience intro missions, at that point the Lotus kind of turns you loose and says, okay, so you're free to go wherever you want, but if you want to progress story chapters, follow this particular objective marker. If you want to do a side quest, follow this other objective marker, and go absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
And just a golden opportunity that was squandered, and just, I'm not really surprised that just the growth of the game has likely slowed down. At least that's my speculation on it.
Probably. You're probably right on that. Okay. Well, like we've mentioned, it's a really good game, but it is unfortunate what they've done to this game. Like, playing the game is a lot of fun, but you're right. It's a game that you definitely need somebody to pretty much guide you through, I would say, the first 20 hours of the game. Is that fair?
20 to 60, because I know I had a really, really good pair of Warframe players that are in my Discord server, and these two players, they've been with the game since it launched, and specifically since it launched on PC. So they have seen the systems change and everything, and they probably gave me at least 60 hours worth of guidance, if not more. And it was after all their guidance, I finally was able to put together just how to build my Warframes out to my playstyle, and just how to proceed with the missions in a efficient way if I wanted to focus on the story and everything.
Yeah. Okay, so we've gotten through Warframe, but this is about Soulframe, the game that they announced. So Digital Extremes is partnering with a company called Airship Syndicate. Now, these guys have done good games. They did Ruined King, a League of Legends story, Darksiders Genesis, which I think got some favorable reviews. And I know Battle Chasers Night War got some good reviews too. My question is, what exactly are they doing with Soulframe? Because these are all very small, well, not very, well, they're small games, and they're mostly either RPGs or ARPGs. So what exactly are they bringing to Soulframe in this? Because I saw that announcement. I'm like, that's kind of weird. What could they be doing on this?
My guess is probably building the underlying systems of Soulframe. At least that's my take on it. Especially since a lot of their experience seems to be in RPGs and ARPGs.
Yeah.
Some people are inferring, at least from the little short trailer that was released this weekend, that Soulframe may focus on gaining the souls of animals to sort of help you out and everything. Mostly from just the heavy focus on the animals that rescue you and assist you and everything. So maybe that's where just the concept of the game is going to be more on folks like Steve Sinclair and some of the other Digital Extreme staff, and then maybe sort of building the underpinning systems is going to be what Airship's Syndicate is doing. It's just way too early to tell, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, they will be formally announcing this, or I guess what it sounds like they're going to show off gameplay at the Game Awards this year. They specifically said they're going to show more at the Game Awards. So if that's the case, my bet is summer of next year is probably when this is going to be ready.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because on top of all that, Digital Extremes announced that you could go to soulframe.com to reserve your Envoy name, and Envoy is, I guess, the Tenno equivalent, is what I'm guessing at. But ever since that announcement on this past Saturday, the Soulframe site has just been choked to death, because I just tried to check on it now, and yeah, it's just still coming up as a giant black page.
I'm on it right now, actually, but it looks like there's nothing here.
Yeah, the servers are just being suffocated to death at this point.
So yeah, we thought it would be an interesting thing to talk about, mainly because of the business aspects, that basically with Warframe going steadily down in profit, they announced a new game, and talk a little bit about that. So yeah, I guess the most we could say is if you're interested in Soulframe, maybe give Warframe a shot if you can find somebody to help you. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting what they come up with in the meantime when it comes to announcing this game.